Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
We're halfway there, James. We are halfway there onto the second half of Correspondent Week, episode 11.
I hadn't even thought about it that way, but thanks, sweetheart. Let me introduce you to our Newcastle United correspondent, Simon Bibby. How are you, Si?
Well, lads.
Why?
Thanks. Does that make me your hump episode then?
I don't know how to answer that.
Is that. It depends whether number 10 or number 11 is. Probably number 11. Who knows?
You might give us the hump. Firstly, you've changed your Twitter handle.
I have, yeah.
Why?
Well, okay, long story short, I think the original one was it was a startup idea I had that never really got off the ground, which was kind of like a football related gym. And then like COVID hit and was like, no one's going to go to a kind of football gamification gym idea. And I was actually going to quit Twitter last year as well. I think I mentioned that to you in a couple of DMs, James. I was just like, had enough of it and was thinking of moving to some other platforms. And then a couple of the Newcastle lads invited me into a chat group. I think FPL Tombs, I'll give him a shout out, did. And that's kind of where I spent most of my time this summer, to be honest. And I've kind of got back into it. It's just been good to talk with other Newcastle fans and get actually quite excited about the season ahead for the first time.
Well, I guess it's all different now, isn't it? With the ownership's obviously in charge. I think the last 2 seasons you've come on and done this podcast with us and said nothing will change. It will be boring. It will be a bit shit, but we'll stay up. It's generally been 45 minutes worth you've condensed into 5 seconds. This obviously is going in a very different direction. How quickly do you expect the club to progress to, I guess, its ultimate on-field goal of winning everything?
I don't think any fans are really thinking ahead of the season, to be honest. Like, judging by, I was at the pre-season friendly game yesterday in Lisbon, and it felt like a European atmosphere with the fans that had turned up, which was great to see. But I think, to be honest, everyone's just focused on like, what can we achieve this season? What players do we still need to bring into the squad? I think it's a big talking point. I think we're a little bit light in a couple of areas to really push on. But as you'll see, I think we'll chat about a survey I did with some of the Newcastle lads. Top half seems to be where everyone thinks we'll be, top 10. At the moment, I'd say if you're asking me right now, we're a couple of players short of finishing in European places. And it's hard to tell what the goal is, I think, for the club, whether it is top 10 this season or Europe. I would say with Bruno on board, like, we need to be trying to get into Europe as soon as possible if we're going to keep a player of that caliber and add to him as well.
How good is he?
Oh, he's fucking unbelievable. I mean, the first time I've seen him was last night, and
you mean live and in person?
Yeah, live and in person. He got the hump. He only played 45 minutes, and Joel Linton also got sent off in that game. I think it's a Brazilian thing of like, they never really get on with Portuguese guys, but he played at least 2 like what I call sex balls, like through to Miguel Almirón, who we will talk about later. He's class, mate. He's just unbelievable talent. Like, I'm looking forward to watching him hopefully live more this season. But yeah, can play in a couple of different positions. Just looks like elite, a cut above what the rest of the squad is currently shaping up to be right now for the start of the season.
Do you think it will translate into FPL though? Because there's always these players that are so good. Because when he first joined, I feel like a lot of people were, yeah, he's good, but it won't translate into FPL points. Then he obviously did score quite a few at the back end of last season.
I think it depends where he plays. And as I said, the current makeup of the squad. And I still think, even when the season starts, we might make a couple more signings. I'm not sure when the deadline is this year, transfer deadline. End of August. So
I think it's September the 1st, I think, which ironically is during the midweek fixtures of game week 5. Interesting.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely nightmare. That'd be fun. To answer your question, I think no one thought he would come in and be a goal scoring midfielder. Everyone thought he would definitely add creativity to our team. And just by the fact that he's actually good at football would automatically be one of our better attacking options. But yeah, the way he hit the ground running, the position he played in as well, I think he can definitely replicate that. He's our talisman. I think he's going to be our top scorer this season in terms of FPL points. I think what's going to be interesting is where he plays. So last night, Shelvey picked up an injury. So you'd think that Longstaff would be coming in as that kind of number 6, but like Bruno is the best player in that position in our squad, but he's also like the best 8 and probably the best 10 as well. So it's kind of where you want to play him. And I think that will translate into FPL points. So I know a lot of people, he's got decent ownership in the game at the moment, but that will really kind of depend. And I think that Shelvey injury for me, like I would personally play him at the 6. I was chatting to the Newcastle lads in the Twitter chat group. I would play him at the 6 against Forest because I think we would just decimate their midfield and we can afford to bring in someone more attacking to play in that game. But looking at the first 5 or 6 fixtures, I don't know. I think there's just a slight question mark over where he's going to play in that first game and how that injury to Shelvey is going to impact him.
Yeah, it's worth saying we're pre-recording this on Wednesday. We haven't got the Shelvey prognosis as yet. That'd be fair, so.
Yeah, hamstring.
If it's hamstring, that's a prognosis enough, probably.
Yeah, he walked off around the pitch himself, but like very gingerly, straight down the tunnel. He's had hamstring injuries before. It's a real shame because he's come back looking good this pre-season. But to be fair, like all the players have, you can tell, and even the players have come out and said it night and day this pre-season, last pre-season. Like Wilson's come out and said like the players weren't fit last year. And like you look at Wilson, he's like an absolute specimen. And actually he's carried that on since he came back last year. So yeah, these niggling and muscle injuries, it's quite hard to protect against them, like every opportunity. But that Shelvey injury, I think, is a bit of a blow because he really does like give us another dimension for passing and allows Bruno to stay a bit further up the pitch. He doesn't have to drop so deep to pick the ball up every time, which he's probably going to have to do a bit more of now.
Okay. You mentioned this survey. Let's get into it. This is a note for the other correspondents. Si's gone the extra mile. I didn't ask him to. What is this survey? Si, who's in it? How many people have you surveyed? It's all about Newcastle and FPL, essentially.
Well, I mean, if I tell you how many people I've surveyed, then the percentages won't sound as impressive. So let's just say it's a healthy group of Newcastle fans that are in this Twitter chat group. And you might have heard of like some of the guys that put out content regularly, so FBLTT's in it, Leafy Dragon, who's Matt, who Barrack 88's in it. I assume that's Barrack Road related. FBL Tombs, UCL Fantasy Pod, like a lot of the guys that like put out good content, put out more content than I do.
You don't put any content. You just come on this 5 times a year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's premium content for you. This isn't Patreon exclusive, is it? But
I couldn't hide you on Patreon, mate. No way, mate.
But essentially, it's all these guys, and I just put out like a 7-question survey, just asking like various stuff. So happy to run through it. So first question was, and as Suj doesn't know the answers, but you do, James, if you looked at it.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see what you think. So which Newcastle player do you think scores the most FPL points this season?
Yeah, unlike some teams, I think that it's going to be quite spread across yours. But I'm going to go with Nick Pope.
Interesting. Only one person said Nick Pope. It was split between Bruno, Wilson.
So I only surveyed 2 people, by the
way. No, there was double figures.
Yeah.
Closer to 20.
No, it's not closer
10.
to 20.
It is.
It's right in the middle.
Now.
Stop bullshitting. It's 15
it's
people,
an FPL
mate.
It's not, mate. If you refreshed it, it's not 15 anymore.
Oh, really?
I put another call out. Anyway.
I better refresh then.
It's Bruno Wilson with Trippier 3rd. I actually think Pope's a terrible pick for this season. I'll tell you why. He's just not going to hit the BPS for passing. Like everyone thinks that he's going to be the same keeper that played for Burnley, and that's just not the case. And what I saw last night, like defenders are going to have to pass the ball, and he's giving the defenders the balls like inside the box from goal kick opportunities. So he can still play that diagonal ball out to Trippier, which he did a couple of times, which kind of worked actually. Him and Wilson kind of picking that up, but he's just not going to hit that passing tier, I think, to get BPS. I don't think he'll make a lot of saves per game. He might be called into action once or twice. We will give up a couple of opportunities, and we've been shocking at set pieces actually in pre-season so far this year. But I don't.
Is that offensively or defensively?
Well, both. We haven't done anything on set pieces at either end, but
Okay,
last night we conceded from a corner and a set piece worldie, to be fair. He didn't look fantastic in the game, to be honest, but like, no, I wouldn't recommend Nick Pope at 5 million. I think people are just buying previous year's points for a different team.
It's interesting though, just to touch on that, because I think that the psyche in it would be, okay, well, now he's playing for a team that is potentially going to be top half. He has obviously the year Burnley finished in the top half themselves was the highest scoring goalkeeper in the game. But I think what you're saying, Sai, is that the fact that there will be more possession orientated play from the defensive players means that Pope's not going to be in the BPS so much. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. I don't know if Phil hit saves. If you look at Dubravka last year, like very rarely got 2 save points in a game. And then if you're picking him for those kind of games, it's typically when you're playing Liverpool or Man City, and the chances are, well, with this high line, it looks like Eddie Howe wants to play, that we'll probably going to get spanked in a few of those anyway.
Have you got any doubt about him being number one?
I can't see why he would come to us if he wasn't number one. It's the same, I think, goes for every player that's moved this year. It's a World Cup year in 6 months. So like you haven't even got, the first couple of months to challenge, really. You've got to be going to a team that you've been given some assurances. Now, I don't think he's been told he's the out and out number one, but Dubravka didn't play last night, or didn't feature on the bench either. Every player played 45 minutes again. He's got an injury, a small injury, and that's the problem.
It's a wrist injury as well, isn't it? I read Dubravka.
Yeah, he picks a few of them up a season, so it's unfortunate, but I think that's kind of like, that's given Eddie Howe one less headache for the start of the season. So like, yeah,
The reason I went Nick Pope is defensively, Trippier has the ability, but I don't think he's going to stay fit for the entire season. So I don't think you're going to get more than 30 games out of him. And the attacking assets, I think will end up doing what Man City do, share the points around. You've got Wilson, Bruno, Joel Linton, Saint-Maximin. And again, all of those, there's a few of those that are prone to the odd knock and a little bit of time on the sidelines. I reckon they'll end up spreading the points around.
I think you're missing someone off that list. A certain player that's 0.5% owned. And if I was to tell you that someone has scored 6 goals and got 2 assists in pre-season for Newcastle this season,
I'd say it was going to be Almirgeddon.
Miguel Almirgeddon. That's correct. Scored 2 last night. Beautiful finishes.
Both assisted by Kieran Trippier, by the way.
Exactly. I was just about to come on to that. So Trippier's got 3 assists already this preseason. Now, like, to be fair, the game last night was the first one we played in a proper stadium, but he looks good. He is pretty much playing that kind of Trent role with Matty on the other side is definite target, is definitely like almost playing like as a third centre back, barely got forward. And that's probably because he had Allan Saint-Maximin ahead of him on the pitch, but he seems comfortable to do that. So like Trippier for me at the same price as Pope, while he's fit, and we're trying to pick teams for 6 to 8 to 10 game weeks, if that.
Can we get this elephant out the room? Are you suggesting at 5.0 that Almirón is a half decent pick?
I'm suggesting, I tinkered this morning, and he's currently in there along with another 5.0 million midfielder, and to be honest, I don't think it really works.
I'd like to clarify for the audio listeners that quite often when we end up recording with Sai, it's normally quite late at night. He's normally had a few beers. It's mid-afternoon. He is completely sober, I think.
Yeah, he to be honest, he finished the season well last year. I don't know what's happened to Fraser, if he's got an injury or not. I see him in training, but he doesn't seem to be playing that many minutes. Jacob Murphy played left wing. So his only real competition is if he wants to play Joe Willock there. But Joe Willock played in midfield in the second half of the game last night. He's starting right wing. And he's going up against Nico Williams, I guess. And I don't know who the other left centre-back is. So if you're starting with a Newcastle player in game week 1, I think it's going to be Trippier. Or for me, I would take a punt on Almirón. He's a million cheaper. He's a million cheaper than Bruno, and you can bench him. You can bench him if it doesn't work out. You can bench him game week 2, 3, 4, 5. If you want to put 5 million on your bench, I'm putting it out there.
Is he, in your opinion, a better option than Leon Bailey at Aston Villa?
That is the other 5.0 I've currently got in my draft, but it looks stinky. I don't like it.
I think so. Again, we're recording this before the Villa pod's gone out. If you listen to the Villa pod, I think you're going to start the season with Miguel Almirón, mate.
Oh, really? Okay, I will listen
might.
to that. I've been trying to catch up today on all of them. It's been great so far.
Suj, there's always someone during Correspondent Week who does the very kind thing of stopping us from having audio listeners, who notes down all the key points. I can't wait to see the Newcastle one that says Almirón, real option at 5.0. I can't wait
For the start of the
that.
season, for the first game, 6 goals. Tell me someone that scored more than 6 goals, 2 assists this pre-season so far. I'll wait.
Harry Kane's very close. He's got 5. He's only played 3 games. How many's Almirón played?
The equivalent of less than 3 games, I'd say. Let me have a quick look to see what his minutes have been. I mean,
oh my God,
I must
Miguel
confess,
Almirón, PFA Player of the Year.
This does include
23.
This does include a 10-0 humping of Burnley on a training ground pitch. But you know, goal's a goal. He's taken them nicely, showing some composure. Could have had a hat-trick last night as well. So I'm just putting it out there. 5 million, 0.5% owned. If you want that 11th spot on your team and you're not sure who to pick and you want someone you can bench, I don't think you're benching Bruno at 6 million. And I don't think you're putting Trippier in your team if you're not going to try and play him all the time.
Can I be honest? Just say one thing on top of this is that 5.0 spot is a bit of a graveyard. And if you're saying he's in form, and with Forest in first game, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. But I also would caveat by saying we definitely know that Newcastle want to buy a right-sided forward.
Yeah.
And that could even happen in the next week before the season starts. And then this conversation is irrelevant.
No, because he's not starting. If we sign someone in the right midfield, we've got 2 preseason games left on Friday and Saturday. They're not starting the season if they're not already in and training for 2 weeks.
If someone's listening and they know they're going to wildcard in game week 3, I don't hate it. Oh, there you go.
Look at that hot take coming through. All right.
What's question 2?
Suj, how much will you up my salary if I start the season with Almirón?
We'd have to talk about a pay decrease, mate, because you're showing a lack of intelligence.
Right, so get back to this survey. Who did you guys go for then? Anyway,
okay. So how many players are you going to start the season with? This is it's literally just like 1, 2, 3, or 0.
Most are going to be on 1.
No, I would say. Let me get the survey up.
Survey.
Most are on none. Most were on none. It was quite split.
Okay.
One attack, 1 defense, 2 no triple ups. And then I asked if
technically, I think one's correct, Suj. I think technically there.
I think so too. If they weren't going to go with them, which game week to target? Game week 6, popular. Big fixture swing. So I think you might have mentioned that previously. You're always quite hot on our.
This is why I mentioned in terms of referencing Almirón and saying first 2, because obviously game week 3 is City at home, Wolves away 4 is okay, but then it's Liverpool away 5. So look, if you go early and you miss, Almiron's one of them. If you weren't wildcarding early and you go with, you get to 3, and the chances are you'll buy someone as well. By this point, we're 20th of August. He's gone. I don't think he stays beyond game week 3. Then from game week 6, really nice run. Palace at home, West Ham away is not the easiest. But then Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, United away is obviously tricky. Then Everton at home. Yes, overall, there's a very good run from 6 to 13. 6 to 12. Then it's Tottenham away, Villa at home, Southampton away, Chelsea at home is the last game before the World Cup. So you could make a case in terms of an overall spread from 6 to the World Cup is not too bad.
Yeah, I think we've always been a bit of a hop on, hop off club because we've never had that consistent player that stayed fit and scored a lot of points. That might change this year, but yeah, for me, like the debate is whether to go with Miggy or none for the start of the season. I'm still thinking about Trippier. I'm gone a bit cold on Wilson just from what I saw last night. He's still a bit too isolated. I think he'll tick along, and he's only 3% owned, which is interesting. We had another question on Callum Wilson, so I asked the guys whether they thought Callum Wilson would beat his best FPL total of 168 points, which was 14 goals, 12 assists in the 18-19 season. And it was split actually as to whether they felt like he'd be able to do that. So I think that really is probably going to come down to fitness more than whether we buy like a second.
You'd need to
striker.
play nearly every game to beat that, I think.
Potentially. So 30% said yes. Most people said no. And then other people said around the same points. But from a price perspective, I think it was a little bit cheaper and he got the price bump after that. And he's kind of stayed at 7.5. I just think we need to upgrade that right wing spot. If we bring in a right winger and he stays as the main striker, and depending on who the caliber of player that is, like, he could be a fantastic option. I just think he needs that more consistent service, like having Almirón and Saint-Maximin is the two people apart from Bruno that are going to feed you the balls is like, I don't know. he must be knocking on Hal's door trying to get someone that can actually like assist him. That'd be madness for me.
Basically, not Almirón.
Yeah, and like Saint-Maximin was just doing Saint-Maximin things last night. And interestingly, so the other player I asked was Saint-Maximin and whether he beat his best FPL total of 116 points. That was 5 goals, 7 assists last season. Everyone said yes. So whether that's more minutes, because he played 2,800, everyone thinks he's going to have a better season. He's now moved back into midfield. He was a striker last year. So long term, I think if you're looking at an attacking option now, he's only 0.5 more than Bruno. I still think Bruno will outscore him over the season, but I mean, he could be back on the table. I know he burned quite a lot of people last year. I think
the one that stands out from that is the minutes, the 2,800 is a lot.
It's a lot.
And he obviously has the reputation of being injury prone. Do you think he's past that now?
I mean, he's played 3 seasons for us. He was 1,800 first year, 1,500 the second year, and last season 2,800. So yeah, I think potentially
that's a sizable jump, mate.
Yeah, and I'd be completely honest, I wouldn't put it past it being.
I think that as well. Bear in mind, 2,800 minutes. He often is getting taken off with 15, 20 to go as well when he's.
Oh, the 5 sub rule will definitely come into play for him.
For want of a better term, he does his load early sometimes, doesn't he? So that's the majority of games. I don't know. I don't know his total number of starts for last season, to be honest, but it must be nearly every game.
Yeah, and he started most games. Pretty much never present since Hal came in. I think I was bigging him up at pre-season last year. I was a bit disappointed with that move to striker slot, but I saw that as an opportunity for people that wouldn't go with him to potentially get more bonus points with those assists, but didn't really materialize. I think he's definitely got more than 5 goals, 7 assists in him. Like he could be his breakout season this year. Like we're talking 10 and 10 max, but not bad. I think for a 6.5 if he can stay fit. And as
played
I said,
in 35 games last season in the league.
Played 35, yeah. So yeah, I think there is always going to be that slight stigma about him, but as you say, like surprising how many minutes he did play. I definitely think he can improve. And at the moment, yeah, I'm waiting to see who we bring in on that other side. But like realistically, I think if you're looking over the course of the season, it's Trippier, Bruno, him, Wilson.
Okay. What else you got from this survey, mate?
What else do I have? So how many more signings do you think Newcastle will make this transfer window? I don't know if you really care, so I'll just tell the answers. So everyone's...
Let Suj have a guess. He might say like 7 and we can have a laugh. Or
okay,
go for it. I think 3 tops. And I feel like you're going to make 2 that will be first team challengers and maybe 1 other squad kind of player. So 2 for sure, 3 probably. That the extra one's a kind of buffer, wiggle room.
Interesting. Okay, so it's 2, and no one said more than 2. I think that's because every Newcastle fan is obsessed with getting a striker and a right winger in. But I think you're right. Like thinking about it, we may add like a youngster or something if you want to count that. But like in terms of improving the first team squad and someone that's going to challenge the starting 11, it was mostly people saying 2 signings. Striker was the least popular. Right wing is the kind of the second option. So from my take, I kind of feel like Newcastle have got a certain budget left and they're trying to sign 2 players with that budget and they're finding it extremely difficult. And there'll come a point where either they're playing the market to see whether we can get someone in on the cheap. Like I was reading today, like there's talk of Ziyech being potentially available as like Chelsea try and shed some of their like extra players that they've got. Now Sterling's in there. Now, to be honest, I'd take him or Hudson-Odoi. Like they would immediately start on the right wing for us. So I think we still do need strength in those two positions. Wood was shit again yesterday. I missed a header from like 6 yards. I don't know what's happened to him. I just don't think it's going to work out for him at Newcastle. But at the moment, he's our backup striker, and we don't really have a third option now that Gale's gone.
Where did Gale go?
Stoke. Yeah. So I think we will sign someone. It's just a question of whether it's a youngster, someone to challenge Wilson, or we pull off some insane deal and we've got an automatic like starter up front, but there just aren't that many of them around.
I think it's absolutely clear that a right-sided forward is a target. I was surprised. Maybe the club knew they couldn't get hold of him, but I was surprised that a big offer didn't go in for Rafinha, because I think that's the kind of where your level's at in terms of what's affordable and the type of player you should be looking at. Ziyech would be a very good signing, to be totally honest, if that works. I don't know if Chelsea want to do business with you. I suspect a lot of the top six are quite reluctant to be doing so, because the potential for you to catch up with them.
Yeah,
and I think a midfielder. I feel like a midfielder is really important. You've already highlighted numbers in there might be a little bit light. You know, you talked about Shelvey injured, Bruno possibly having to go and play the deepest of the three, which wouldn't be ideal at the moment. You don't want to restrict him, as you said. Whatever midfield position is the best, basically. So I feel like a midfielder would be a priority, even if it's a short term, like a loan or even like a year loan of potential or something that might become an obligation or something. I'd be really surprised we got to September and you haven't bought a right-sided forward. Really surprised.
I would too. Yeah, I think it's that I know a lot of Newcastle fans they're getting quite stressed about like the situation. And actually I know it's Twitter and Twitter's a bubble, and they seem to be getting on the club a bit, but for me, like, I think people forget that we're owned by like an investment fund, and like typically our investment funds work is they'll give you like a series round of money. And I think we've got a finite amount of money. I don't know what the objective is, whether it's Europe or not. I would say like potentially not this season. If we really are struggling to like pop 40 million, 50 million pound bids in for players, I think it's probably somewhere in the 30, 40 million. And they're trying to do deals for two players for that. But you're absolutely right. I think that Shelvey injury, and particularly the way like we played yesterday, like very high line, we're talking like halfway line sort of press. We're going to get done if we don't have a DCM that's got some decent recovery pace. So in my estimation, I think that's kind of moved up the list of players that we need to try and get in, particularly if Shelvey's is going to miss some games. I just don't know actually if he kind of really fits like the way we want to play. If we want to play a bit higher, I think he'll get exposed. Interesting to see whether that's a tactic for particular teams and if he changes his style, because I think he tried to do it at Spurs last year and we got absolutely battered. So be interesting to see what comes up. Yeah, I'm sure you do. I remember too, because I was actually quite confident about that game because we were in a good run of form and we usually do quite well down at Spurs, but not last season.
Yes, Ash, it's very true that you bring it up. You have had this freaky record at our place that's been going on for a while where we couldn't seem to beat you. We only turned up for half hour against you, and yeah, you just had a bad day at the office that day. That's not something that's going to be a regular for you next season. I don't see anyone beating you 5-1 next year.
No, I to be honest, like you look around the teams, and I'd say like full strength, like there's maybe 5, possibly 6 teams that have got a better defense in terms of like personnel than we have starting 5. I'd say like Botman looked very good yesterday. He's like an automatic shoe-in, 4.5. Who he plays with, Howe's tried everyone in pre-season with him. Like the one sort of correlation is like he has tried it with Burn, played with the Lascelles last night. I think in next week or this weekend you'll see him play with Shah for 90 minutes, and I think that will be the starting. Whoever he plays with at the weekend, I think is going to be his partner come Forest.
Any concern on Burn and Botman playing together? It just feels awkward because the left-footed nature of it.
Not really for me. Botman played right centre back when they played together, and he's quite comfortable with both feet. The The only concern I'd have is more that recovery pace. Like Botman's pretty quick when he gets going, but over short distances, if he's playing someone like there was a couple of Portuguese tricky wingers last night, and just over that like 3 or 4 yards, like both of them are like 6'5", 6'7". So it's not ideal for me to be playing them both together, but they can play together.
Shares another one. He's not going to stay fit 38 games, is he?
Probably not. He seems to pick up some kind of facial injury every time he plays football, which is a shame because he's got a beautiful face. But no, I think they'll start the season, and who knows? Can't really predict centre back injuries, but yeah, he does kind of he likes to tackle.
Yeah, I think from an FPL perspective, them 4.5 defenders would have to be avoidable. You'd pay the extra, wouldn't you?
Trippier all day long. Yeah,
for trips v targets, not a conversation, is it?
No, not at all. The target was, as I said, pretty much playing like third centre back last night.
But you're not going with trips, so what's the thinking?
I haven't ruled it out. To be honest, my FPL drafts have been very loose tinkers. I'm not kind of settling into a team until I see who's playing.
I'm impressed you came and you've done one.
Yeah, thanks, man. I've definitely more engaged this year than I was last season.
Yeah,
good.
Well, you know the prices.
I know the prices, yeah. I don't know when the double game weeks are yet, but I'm pretty sure no one knows.
Don't worry,
you don't need to worry about that.
Don't worry.
That'll be ages, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna win it all this year. I think the Newcastle prices. Actually, this leads me on to one of the last questions. Was are NUFC FPL assets priced correctly this year? So, do you want to take a stab at that, Suj? Underpriced, priced correctly, or overpriced?
Priced correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Priced correctly.
Yeah, basically 9 in 10 said that. I actually think they're slightly underpriced. Not at this point, but come the end of the season, where I think we'll finish anywhere from 10th to possibly 7th, depending on who we sign. I think they'll be seen as underpriced. And I think there's a big opportunity for managers to get on Newcastle. I think where previously, James, like particularly me and you have, and I know you've been an advocate of this, jumping on maybe 1 or 2 when the fixture runs are good. I think this season, maybe not from the start, but from game week 6 and a couple of other spells for the season, I think you can more comfortably have players in your team, and they might actually be keepers for most of the season. I think we're going to have that good a season. It's just getting over.
I think for the last couple of years, a lot of it's been a graveyard, hasn't it? Jump on Wilson if he's fit, maybe, and if it works and the fixtures are right, and if other strikers aren't doing the business, and that may stay the same case, I think, during the season. I'm not 100% against him, by the way, from the start. It's the City and Liverpool fixtures 3-5 are really off-putting if you're looking any further than game week 2. I think there are a few, like Guimares could be underpriced at 6, but I don't currently think he's the best 6.
No.
Is what I would say to that. I think Joel Linton even could actually possibly be interesting. I think if he was 5.5, we'd maybe be having a conversation. Not at 6. Saint-Maximin at 6.5 could be the best in theory, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the best of the 6.5s in the first 2, for example. Defensively, Trips is a great price at 5. You could, I think, if you're going to push on to where we expect you to this year and his capability, there's every case to say he should be 5.5. But I also think that applies to Zinchenko, Cash versus Dean, for example. So he's not the only one that's under at 5 million. So then it becomes a choice of a versus.
Yeah.
Have you got a different 5.0 defender, or have you just not got that spot?
In my current Miguel Almirón and Leon Bailey draft, I don't have a 5.0 slot, but he's been in more than half of them. I know I'm going to have him, and I just don't know if I don't know if from game week 1 is the right move. But as I said, I'm going to wait and see what all the preseason, how that all shakes out this weekend. I think there's going to be a massive amount of data come through on every team, assuming that it's going to be their last preseasons this weekend. So I think, I don't know if this is the same with your clubs, but no one's played more than 61 minutes in a match for us this preseason. It's been chop and change, trying different things, different lineups, different formations. It's been an absolute mess. I think
we've about 70, 75 at most, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it's the World Cup coming up, right? They know that this load is going to be insane for the players this year. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see some weird results first couple of weeks of the season. I feel like almost like they do in other sports. Like, I'm into my basketball and stuff. They almost treat the first like couple of games as, I know they play like twice as much, but it's almost like an extension of preseason. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't know how many teams are going to come like at the start of the season, like right bang on it. So could see quite a few upsets.
All right. Mark Southerns will be pleased, mate.
I don't know if it'll be our game. Possibly. I'm from what I saw last night, we definitely weren't up for like that. That Benfica atmosphere was mental, and like the ref was an absolute fucking joke. But I don't think they were expecting like that kind of atmosphere, and it caught the players out a bit, which I guess is good from a house point of view. But we seemed like a little bit short still. So again, let's see what happens this weekend. I think the idea is with 2 preseason games back to back on Friday and Saturday, players will play 90 or close to 90 in both. So pretty much we played 2-11. We did play 2 11s.
2 teams.
Yeah, last night.
It'll be interesting to if that's a split or we get like a
first team and second team.
First team and a second team might be quite interesting. Yeah,
so,
because then that really gives us answers in terms of right-sided forward and the third midfield spot, I guess, is open for opening day at the moment.
So weirdly, it's something that people probably won't have noticed unless they follow the Newcastle Twitter account. But Murphy was supposed to start last night, and then Almirón came in and scored 2 in the first half. The only other one was Joel Linton didn't play. Ellie Anderson looks like he'll stay part of the squad, at least.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about him. Not got a price. Dan, the FPL fan, would be so delighted. Yeah, I've remembered his handle. Like, he's got to mention. The Bristol Rovers guy is going mental over this kid. And it looks like he's going to stay with you, doesn't he, Simon?
Yeah. He played left-sided midfield in like a 3. Quite interesting. I'm not going to bore you with like the way that Howe was setting up the press with him, but like seeing him be responsible for the pressing and Saint-Maximin kind of dropping off into midfield, so he didn't have to as much, was quite interesting. I don't think that's his natural position. I always thought of him as kind of more of an outside winger, like beautiful first touch. Doesn't actually seem to have like potentially the pace that I thought he did. And I think at the Premier League level, whether that's something he can develop into with more strength or not, but it doesn't seem to be lightning quick. But really nice touch. Won a penalty in our previous preseason game from just like rapid feet within like the 6-yard box, got brought down. Looks like a talented kid. I'll be happy if he stays for 6 months, but like the reality is, like, I mean, he could get the 15 minutes of Saint-Maximin time like a game, but I think he's behind Murphy in that pecking order. Murphy played on the left in the second half.
Is there any chance Anderson could start game week 1? Any at all?
No, it's not starting game week 1. No.
Okay, fine. So you don't want me to at official FPL or anything, no?
Well, if you do, you could also mention Matty Bonswell, who played left back for us, an academy graduate, who at the moment looks like, unless he puts Burn left back, will probably be our understudy to Matt Targett.
Do us a favour, tweet it yourself and I'll retweet it.
Yeah? Okay. I mean, if he comes in, he's definitely 4.0.
Can everybody retweet it when I retweet it, please? FPL bibs.
I don't know what happened to
Murphy,
Lewis, but he's injured, I think.
I don't think he's ever lived up to... The same applies to Max Aarons, actually. Neither have particularly lived up to the
I wouldn't write him off yet. If you look at what Krafu's turned into, he's just got an extension. Emil Kraft,
undeservedly so for his performances, actually.
So I wouldn't write Jamal Lewis off until he's been given an opportunity to play. And I think he's the type of player that Howe would quite like it at left back as an option in some games. Good understudy to Matt Targett if he can kind of get him produced. I think Bruce just fucking ruined him, to be honest. But would be the first.
You do think it's a chance that Murphy starts, though? He is, of all the players priced at 4.5 million, the highest scoring from last season, and I think inevitably because of that, a fair bit of ownership at 8%. Do you think he starts?
No, he doesn't start. He'll. I think Almiron's preseason form, unless something happens on Saturday, I think Almirón starts on the right, Saint-Maximin starts on the left, Wilson up top.
Did Murphy come on at Benfica?
Yeah, he played the second half, but there was 11 different players. So I don't know what the change was, why that happened. It's a bit weird.
Strange.
Yeah.
Unless they just tweeted out the wrong team in the first place and didn't want to take responsibility for it. So they went, it's a late
maybe.
change.
The
It's a
club.
strange one because the late change would normally because of injury, right?
Yeah. I think, was there one other one? I can't remember. I was
Basically,
a bit
the
pissed. I
social
was a bit
media
pissed by that point.
admin just didn't want to own up to the truth that he was never in the team, I think.
Maybe. But interestingly, he came on to play on the left. Willock looked good. He scored 3 in pre-season. But no, I think Murphy should have scored more last season. He hit the post a couple of times and had like a few horrendous one-on-one misses. But he's actually, last 10, 15 minutes of a game, like that's when like his pace and his like running ability kind of comes into his own. Like he tends to not do anything when he starts games. But yeah, 4.5. Same price as Sean Longstaff, who looks like he's going to start. Like we were having this debate earlier on Twitter. I personally think Bruno should play 6 and he should bring Joe Willock in to the team. But the chances are against the bigger teams, the tougher opposition, Longstaff looks like he's going to play, and he's got a goal on him too.
So midfield free opening day, you think Longstaff plays?
I think against Nottingham Forest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Bruno, Joe Linton, and Joe Willock in midfield, based on the fact that, from what I can tell, Forest don't really have much of a midfield. And like if they're playing Jack Cole back there, I could probably fucking play against him, to be honest.
But it's worth saying Forest have got a new addition in.
Have they?
Your name of the midfielders escaped me, but since we recorded with Mark, they have added another player.
Okay. Whether he plays or not. But they've also added Lingard in, who I think also has dented Bruno's appeal at 6 million, coming in at that exact same price. I think that's, until you see where Bruno's going to play and who he's playing with, I think, he's got 17% ownership at the moment, Bruno. I wouldn't be surprised if that dips a little bit before the start of the season. And I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't score, if that price starts dropping. That's a kind of quite dangerous ownership percentage, and I'm definitely looking to take advantage of that. If game week 6 rolls around and he's like 5-7 or something like that, I think he's banging my team.
Orel Mangala is the player that Forest have signed from Stuttgart, midfield player. I think from what you're saying, Si, it makes Guimarães enough of a doubt of his position to probably not go there. I would have looked at it prior to speaking to you that I'd have preferred Martinelli to start with anyway. And I think that's strengthened that in my mind, I think. Not that I don't know he can go off, because he's been brilliant, right?
He can get
and
a goal.
He's such a good footballer.
Yeah, he can get a goal assist from playing that. But he doesn't stay in that position. That's just his starting position. Of course he could. He's got goal to assist really this preseason, and it's like, again, barely played, but he looks good, and I think he's absolute class. But it wouldn't surprise me if like him and Trippier both return game week 1, and then you're kind of kicking yourself in my position a little bit. You didn't go with them, but they're going to be in my team at some point this season if they're fit. No question about it.
I think Trippier is in my mind. I would say I think he's probably going to be a no. I can see me starting without Newcastle actually, but I think as the season goes on, exactly what you said, I think plenty will develop. The correspondents pretty much en masse think that you will finish top half. There are a couple of 11th, 12th, but we've obviously got a sizable shift from where we'd have been at with this time last year and stuff. And there are a few who think you can hit 7th. No one thinks break top 6 this year. I think where you actually end up finishing this year may depend on what happens between now and the 31st, or the 1st of September rather, and how many players stay fit. Because I think if suddenly Wilson, Saint-Maximin, Guimarães, you take that out of the team, I think it's a bottom half team as it still stands. So there's a way to go, but I think if everyone stays fit, I think you could finish as high as 7th. And if one of the top 6 does really badly, I think you could finish 6th.
I think.
I've looked at it as top 6, to be honest with you, unbreakable. But the thing that the clubs in behind, which is West Ham, Leicester, West Ham have got European football that you don't have that distraction. That's not a dig. That's just saying it gives you the focus to concentrate on the league, and you're not going to have as much midweek football to worry about, which I think makes Newcastle a little bit more dangerous in that kind of hunt for the 6th, 7th spots.
We need more goals, I think. I think I put 7th in the correspondent survey prediction you sent out was based on the fact that I was probably more confident that we would get those 2 signings based on the names that were bandied about last week. It feels like there's been a slight shift this week, and maybe we're looking at potentially like a loan to buy. I still think that we'll end up getting someone from a Premier League club because they just want to offload a certain player. I think that will fit. But I think if we can add 10 goals, 5 assist player to our team, I think we're pretty good for 7th place. And as I said, like none of the guys that I spoke to think will finish in the bottom half. So from that point of view, I think FPL wise, will outperform expectations, will outperform percentage ownership, and therefore I think we'll be pretty good differentials. And I can't see us being priced the same next year if we do finish 7th. I think we'll be bumped up into that next sort of category of pricing across the first.
Yeah, it's impossible in my mind. The lowest prediction is 12. It's impossible in my mind to envisage you finishing lower than that. I think in terms of for 7th, I think yourselves, Leicester, if they can, without no Europe this year, might actually be better in a perverse way. West Ham, I definitely think will be in there. Villa and Brighton, I think, are probably and Palace just slightly behind, I think. So I think it'd probably be between you, Leicester and West Ham for best of the rest, and it can do it.
I think so.
I'd see you finishing between 7th and 9th, put it that way.
Agreed.
Si, pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Where can the listeners find you? You did mention your new Twitter handle that you changed. You want to just give it a shout out while you can?
FPL Bibs. Got rid of that nasty underscore as well as the random name. So
I hate them bloody underscores.
Yeah. So I will say if the lads are listening in my Twitter group that I've done an agreement with James that we're going to tweet your handles out when he posts about this podcast.
Yeah.
So
how much are you paying me for that?
How much are you getting for your Nike sponsorship? I'll double it.
Yeah.
I haven't agreed to anything. No.
Yeah. Thanks to the guys that obviously helped with the survey as well. James, where are we headed next on Correspondent Week? Why don't you tell the listeners?
Back south to arguably the most interesting conversation from the top 6 from a general conversation this year, and that's Chelsea. Speak to our new Chelsea correspondent, Gary Mantle, because I think they're the most likely team to push Liverpool and City if one of the rest of the 6 do. And I also think they're just as likely to have a nightmare. Something's not right. It feels like they could bubble either way and finish anywhere between 1st and 7th, actually.
Yeah.
Really interesting one. I know what Gary's going to say because I've seen his correspondent prediction, but I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Save it for the pod. Yeah. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you so much again for your support, and we'll be back at you in the next episode. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks again, Si. Be nice to each other, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.